You said there was another one, Mayor?
No, I think I misspoke. I think there is just the one for the police grant.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I have till the regular meeting.
Pardon me?
That is all I have, Mr. President, until the regular meeting begins under my report, which you'll probably be happy to know, since I have two presenters scheduled this evening, that when I left my house, I picked up my packet and thought I grabbed deep enough and grabbed my notes underneath it, and did not grab my notes. So I'll be doing things from memory, which means it can only be a shorter report this evening from me.
Be nice, Don.
Hey now, hey now.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I would like to request that we suspend ordinance 21-14.
Okay.
That's the one with the TIF.
All right.
And the reason for that is one of the properties in the TIF grossed quite a bit more income than we knew it would. It's really hard to budget for these things. It's a good thing, but also then when they make more money in these properties, we also have to share with the school districts. So we need to put more money in the budget because they made a lot more than was anticipated.
Okay, Ben? Did you sign that too?
I believe,
2114?
I remember talking to Kathy about it. Fairly certain I signed it. Let me check. It looks like I signed 2112 and 2113.
Does anybody else remember signing 2114? Bridget, did you happen to sign it by any chance?
I don't have that on my list that I signed, but I could be wrong.
All right. Well, I'm thinking you probably would have signed it, Ben, unless it just got overlooked.
Mr. President,
Yes.
yes, Ben did sign it.
Okay.
He said, yeah, 12, 13, and 14.
Thank you. Are you going to have anything to report about the snowstorm, Mayor?
I can talk about whatever you'd like me to. I think our plow crews did a phenomenal job. They were out all night. I think Brandon made the right call. I know the county had their plows out all day before the snow began, trying to keep up with the drifts, and Brandon instead held ours back because the county had to, they basically were out of hours and they had to stop plowing. I think it was around 10 o'clock or something like that. They had to stop, and then they didn't start again until about 4 a.m. Whereas with us, we've been out nonstop ever since. I think they've done a tremendous job with it. But I was going to say those basic things in my report, but if there's anything additional you'd like me to discuss, I'm happy to talk about it.
One question that I have we used much salt?
Yeah, we've certainly used more than we have in previous years. However, it's still nothing on the level of what we did in the winters of 13 and 14. We do have an ample supply from previous years. We've continued to buy the same amount of salt, which allows us to just continue to build our reserves up when the prices were really low. So I know you've seen probably stories in the news that there is a salt shortage. Unless we really get hammered bad, we're going to be just fine this year.
Good. Councilman Gillig, you had your hand up.
Was 13 and 14, Mr. Mayor, was that when we had to buy the beet heat to supplement the salt because it was too cold for the salt to be fully effective?
No, we do that. We do that every we buy that and they mix it. So they mix it in with the actual salt. We always have that on hand and ready to go. It works, but just like anything else, it's much more expensive. And once the sun goes down and temperatures reach 0 or below, it still struggles. That UV light that it gets from the sun, even on a cloudy day, immensely impacts the ability of it to melt. So hence why when it gets down like it will be tonight to like a -5-degree temperature and it's pitch dark, that stuff can even struggle to work at those temperatures. It will work, especially on streets that are having a lot more vehicles travel on them, that the tires help heat it up. But on a side street that sees maybe a car an hour, that stuff doesn't work all that great.
Councilman Jones.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. On a lighter note, for the first time in 14 months, I didn't have to involve the city administrator. I got a text from someone on Minerva Street. I'm not sure complaining was a proper term or not, but I'll use complaining, that the street department was going down Minerva Street and piling the snow on his sidewalk. And he had to go out 3 or 4 times a day and redo what the city plows were doing. And I was going to call it or text him back and say, he ought to be fortunate they're coming down your street 3 or 4 times, but he was exaggerating. And so I drove down to Minerva Street. Turns out there's parking on the east side of Minerva, not on the west. And the street is level with the sidewalk, and the sidewalk is adjacent to the thing. So I texted him back and told him I was reluctant to bring it up to city administration. And they plow, I said 90 miles of a thing. They've been working 8-10 hours a day, et cetera, et cetera. Not sure what they can do other than shovel it into the middle of the street. That's not the thing. And then he texted back and said, well, thank you for your comments. But he was more concerned about the elderly people going out there extra times versus himself. So I took care of that one myself. I was pleased. I thought I would share that on a lighter note.
We'll give you an attaboy for that.
Yeah, we do appreciate that, Ken. And I know folks get really frustrated. I can only imagine when you have a foot of snow like this, but when there's sidewalks that are right on top of the street, there's just not much we can do. Just like the calls that we've had today on the voicemail of folks that are upset that plows have come by and plowed snow up against their car that's parked on the street. I mean, as you all know, on city council, we have about 100 miles that have to be plowed of road. And what's really unfortunate, and until you ride with these plow drivers like I've done, and I think Dale has done before, you don't realize that just your average street takes about 3 or 4 passes to get that street open to where it's good enough to get, non-4-wheel drive vehicles. You figure that 2 lanes, you're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles that have to be driven before each road has enough passes. And that doesn't account into the fact that snow is continuing to fall, the winds are blowing. There's a lot of mileage put on in these snows on our drivers, and it's just very difficult. They don't have the time to get out and shovel out people's driveways or cars that are plugged up and that kind of thing.
Councilman Leopard, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you. I'd appreciate if either you or the mayor in your comments to remind the citizens to check on neighbors in this weather. We had one that had taken a fall today, and she needed our help, and had I caught a 94-year-old with a shovel in her hand. I took care of her driveway for her. But check upon your neighbors. That's, these some hard time could be some hard times for them.
Yeah, definitely. That's good. That's good. Good advice. City Administrator Thornton, I want to thank you for getting the front door finally working.
It only took us 2 months to get that company to fix it correctly. My apologies to everyone who had to walk a little further to get up the ramp.
I don't think it hurt us. But it's nice to walk out and know that the door shuts.
It is a nice door. It was just
yeah.
difficult getting the right power bar for it.
Looks good. Thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a minor side note. I saw in the weekend edition of the AT, Fostoria was kicking around the idea of a council manager versus a mayor type structure. And I'm not sure why that was in the Tiffin paper. I did get a call from someone here in the second ward, asked me, was Tiffin talking about going to a city manager type situation? And I took it upon myself to explain to him that I sat on many of the charter commission meetings, and we went through the section on the mayor, and I mentioned, even I chimed in saying the mayor gets along fine with the law director, and we kind of went over that. So I kind of answered it that no, we had no interest in doing that. I just wanted to get some extra opinions there before I speak out of turn. I've been known to do that in the past.
We have no interest in going that route. We're doing fine the way we are.
Okay, good enough. Thank you.
Actually, we're doing better than fine. See, hello, Brent. Good to see you.
Good evening.
Councilman Jones?
I'm sorry, not to belabor this situation, but if 40% of the other cities in Ohio are doing it, it's just not a good idea, correct? A yes or no would end the conversation.
Well, for some communities, it's probably a good idea.
Okay.
For our community, we have talented people that can handle the administrative job. So our strong mayor council form of government has done very well. I think it's evident in what you see with the not only with the budget, but personnel matters. With we have a growing economy. So there are some places they probably don't have the same talent pool that we have. So
Okay.
they have to go out and hire it.
Thank you.
I'm being a little bit facetious, but all right. Does anybody else have anything for the committee of the whole? All right, I'm going to adjourn the committee of the whole, and we'll come back and start our regular meeting in a minute.
Going to ask if Zachary doesn't have a suit and tie on, does he? Is he trying to show us up or what?
No, no suit and tie for me.
You look good, Zach. Don't let him give you a hard time.
Good. Jacket or a cardigan? Inquiring minds want to know.
Oh, it's just a jacket.
It's like the line from Dumb and Dumber. Pull over. No, it's a cardigan, but thank you.
All right, with that, it's 7 o'clock. I'll call the council meeting for Tiffin City Council, February 16th, to order. This evening, Councilwoman Boyle will lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilwoman Boyle.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. If you would all join me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and give us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, now and forever. Amen. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty liberty, and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilwoman Boyle. We're now going to ask Council Clerk Ann Forrest to please call the roll.
Councilwoman Boyle,
Here.
Councilman Gillig,
Here.
Councilwoman Yanatuno,
Here.
Councilman Jones,
Present.
Councilman Leopard,
Present.
Councilman Perkins,
Here.
Councilman Perry.
Let the record show that 6 of the 7 members of council were present. Hopefully, everybody had a chance to read the minutes. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the February 1st regular and committee of the whole meeting minutes? Seeing none, without objection, the minutes will stand approved as presented. We'll now move on to committee reports. Finance, Councilman Gillig.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Law and Community Planning, Councilwoman Boyle.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Materials and Equipment, Councilman Jones.
No report at this time, Mr. President.
Thank you. Personnel and Labor Relations Committee, Councilman Perry. Councilman, I'm sorry, he's not here. Does anybody have a report? Personnel and Labor Relations? Okay. Recreation and Public Property, Councilman Perkins.
No report at this time.
Thank you. Street Sidewalks and Sewers, Councilman Leopard.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Economic Development and Downtown Planning, Councilwoman Yanatuno.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Does anybody see a need for the Committee of the Whole meeting? Okay. We'll move on to reports to the officers. His Honor Mayor Aaron D. Montz. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Couple of items this morning, and then I do apologize. We have 2 presentations that will fall under my report. First off, I would like to welcome Kylie Staller. You'll see Kylie on your screens. Kylie is a student at New Regal Schools, and she is job shadowing me because she has interest in politics and potentially going to school for political science. So Kylie is here this evening with us. She's going to job shadow in a few other meetings as well. Of course, coronavirus has made that a little more difficult than the normal life, but we do have Kylie here. So Kylie, why don't you say a few words to the members of council and the public and just introduce yourself for a little bit.
Hi, I'm Kylie Staller, and I'm a junior at New Regal. I participate in National Honor Society, SAD, and Student Council. I also am involved in volleyball and basketball. I just recently applied for Buckeye Girls State, and I've won the American Test 3 years in a row now. For my chemistry class, we're doing a job shadow or internship for a possible career choice, and I've always been interested in like politics and government. So I reached out to Mayor Montz to see if it was possible to do that with him, and he said it would be a Zoom. And I just want to thank you all for allowing me to be here and observe.
Thank you, Kylie. We're happy to have you here. So probably a good day that we chose to do this job shadowing via Zoom, because I don't think you wanted to make that trek into Tiffin anyways tonight for the meeting.
No, my car's pretty snowed in right now.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. Well, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
All right, I will get into the items that I have for tonight, and then we will get to our presentations. First off, I'd like to just give a brief update on financial numbers. We do not have new numbers today. Finance office was closed due to the storm. However, we do have the numbers through February the 11th. Still, everything looks very positive. We're on a very good start to the year on a financial standpoint with the city. Through February the 11th of 2021 compared to February 11th of 2020, we are to the positive about $183,000. That is about a 17% increase. So very strong. It really is kind of picking up where we left off towards the end of last year with very strong numbers. Once the economy reopened and things began to return to a semi-normal state, things have been very positive overall. For the month of February to date, we're about flat, exactly where we were last February. January was an extremely positive month, so we'll just hope that the trends continue. We know, and you're about to hear later this evening, the update from David Zach and his team at TCEP. So we obviously know the local economy is quite strong. We went through some hiccups, bumps in the road this past year with coronavirus, but overall the project pipeline is very thorough and robust. And I think David can attest when he gets on here that things have not slowed down whatsoever from a project standpoint in our pipeline. Things are still very strong. So very good news on the financial side. As far as coronavirus cases go, things are honestly here in Seneca County and in the state of Ohio the best that they have been in months. In fact, for the state of Ohio, the number of new cases is the lowest that it has been since October the 5th of last year. Our numbers are the lowest they've been in even a longer time. We are down to only 87 active cases right now in Seneca County and only 7 individuals hospitalized. This, of course, does not mean let's run out and party and have gatherings with 1,000 people or anything, but it's a very positive news. Folks are starting to receive the vaccinations now. I know that is about the only thing Beth Schweitzer at the health department, her and her staff have been doing right now is trying to keep up with vaccinations and handling all of that. It's good. We're getting to light at the end of the tunnel. The governor and his task force have talked about that they believe also that the hospitalizations have dropped so low across the state because almost everyone in nursing homes that wishes to be vaccinated have been vaccinated. These congregate care facilities and settings have been vaccinated. They're starting in Seneca County, vaccinations down to folks now who are 65 and older. So we are getting there. The head of the CDC said today that they hope by April 1st that there will be a wide open sort of vaccination, that anyone of any age is the hopeful target to start vaccinations for younger individuals, those that are 64 and under. So very positive news there. So ticking up close to, we're over 8% of people in Seneca County that we know of have tested positive, but it's very good news overall that we are having some conversations internally because of if you recall the swine flu pandemic years ago with H1N1, because of that, paramedics are licensed to give the vaccine. So if we are able to get enough vaccines, we may have to mobilize extra individuals so that we can have kind of these max vaccination clinics. But that's a good thing. For individuals who are willing to be vaccinated, that is wonderful. And we'll hopefully be able to churn through the population very quickly and get things back to normal. I know we're all craving that. The past almost exactly a year now has been anything but normal. And I know all of us are wanting to get back to that sense of normalcy and going about our everyday lives how we used to do, enjoying that face-to-face personal contact. I know I'm looking forward to it, and I'm sure most everyone else is. So very good news there. I think everyone knows we just had a snowstorm. It went, we never know what to expect. Sometimes the weather calls for 6 or 8 inches of snow, and it turns out we only get a couple. This time was one that I think lived up to the billing. In fact, they said on the Toledo stations today that we actually received more snow than the blizzard of 78. The difference was the blizzard of 78 had hurricane force winds. This storm only got up to about 25 to 30 miles an hour, which is what saved us from having drifts that were, 8 feet deep. So I just want to thank Tiffin Public Works, the county employees, ODOT, everyone who worked to get the streets open, to keep them open. They've got to be exhausted. I know our crews are still out and about working feverishly to try to keep those roads open. Tonight, temperatures are going to drop down to about -5 degrees. So it will be quite difficult. Everything's going to freeze up very quickly. So keep that in mind tomorrow. No idea what things look like for the school systems and whatnot, but it's going to be a very bitterly cold morning with lots of ice where the snow has melted throughout the day and decides to refreeze as we go into things. But we obviously do the absolute best job that we can. And our main priority in these storms is keeping the main thoroughfares open for emergency transport and so that people can get to and from places that they need to go. And Brandon and his team at Public Works did an admirable job of keeping those thoroughfares open throughout the storm, even with 10 to 12 inches falling and the winds picking up. And then following that, they've done a job. They started about 11:30 this morning, starting to hit those secondary and more minor roads throughout the community. They're still not done. I know on my way back in here to the office, I passed some of the plow trucks out and about. They're doing everything in their power to get the roads plowed as well as they possibly can. I know we talked in committee of the whole about it, but they plow over 100 miles worth of roadway here in the Tiffin community. But if you've never plowed, or if you have never ridden with someone who's plowing, like I know I have, and I know some of the council members have ridden before with our folks, you don't realize that each and every street, you're talking 3 to 4 passes in each lane every time to just open things up enough to where it's safe for a non-4-wheel drive vehicle to get in there. Before that street's actually good and clean to where it's down to either pavement or just a thin layer of snow, it can be many more passes than that. So we have to keep in mind that the routes within this community, there are just hundreds and hundreds of miles that have to be driven to get these streets open. So when I get the frustration from folks when we're getting calls that my street hasn't been plowed, it stopped snowing 8 hours ago. Typically with a storm of this size, or even if we're getting 6 or 8 inches of snow, it does take our crews more than that to get in and get all of these main thoroughfares open because of just the size and the amount of passes. I do want to thank everyone downtown and on our snow emergency streets. It seems like most everyone did follow the protocol there and remove their vehicles. I noticed coming back into the office this evening that most of the parking places have been cleaned out where the vehicles were moved. So that's a very good sign, so that it just makes the jobs easier for our plow drivers and allows them to get everything opened up quicker when the vehicles are moved off the street like that. So just a big thank you to the plow drivers and our first responders who worked a lot these last 24 hours. We do know that last week we had the viaduct hit twice again here in the community. This has been a problem in Tiffin ever since the railroad and the viaduct existed. We constantly are looking at ways to try to improve things without costing an arm and a leg. I know every time it's struck, we hear, why doesn't the city either raise the viaduct or lower the road? It is not possible. We're talking $10 million if you want to raise that railroad track. They would have to go out, and I know it's been talked about before here, they would have to go out all the way by Bascom and start raising those tracks so that the grade by the time they got to Tiffin was the right grade for them to still be able to make it up the hill. It is just not feasible. You're talking millions and millions of dollars to do that. The same can be said with the lowering of it. If you recall, the Sandusky River is immediately adjacent to the viaduct. If we go any deeper, we all know that viaduct floods occasionally now in heavy rains. If we go any deeper, the viaduct will be flooded every time there is any sort of a rainstorm. You're talking, you would need a significant lift station and pump house. It's just not feasible to be spending those kind of dollars to fix a problem that really is the railroads from having the trains there in the first place over the road. So we've done what we can at the city. There are blinking lights in both directions. There are signs that are placed. However, we're going to take yet another look at it. I've directed the city administrator as the head of our traffic safety commission to take yet another look, because we do have many individuals, including Matt Watson and Brandon Berner, who are new in their positions, just in case there are new affordable ideas to fix the problem. We are completely fine with taking steps that are affordable and make sense to fix the issue. But I don't know if any of you read the Seneca News Daily a couple of days ago. I caught the article. He showed one that has almost all of these precautions, including these bright LED flashers and something hanging up over the road. And they still have videos on this bridge. It's called the can opener, and the thing still gets hit. So we have to remember, these are our tax dollars, and we can't go out and spend hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to fix these issues. When the true issue most of the time is drivers not paying attention. In fact, the route is labeled correctly on the trucker's GPS system if they have the correct GPS for semi-truck drivers. The issue you get into is folks that try to skirt the system. and they use either their phone's GPS or they're not using a GPS at all, or maybe they're distracted driving on their telephones, whatever it may be. That's where we're seeing issues with the viaduct being hit. And unfortunately, there's no fix with that. With it being a state route, there are also laws on how low signs can legally be hung. We cannot hang a sign or a chain above the road that is low enough to hit the top of the vehicle to warn the driver. That is not permitted on a state route like we're dealing with here. So I know that's the quick fix. Everybody tries to say, well, they do it at McDonald's. That's because McDonald's drive-through is private property. We're dealing with a public piece of property, a state route that unfortunately we can't put something like that above. So again, we get into the problems. So we feel like we have looked at every possible angle of fixing things. However, the Traffic Safety Commission is going to take yet another look at it to see if they can come up with anything affordable that makes sense and has been proven effective to at least decrease the amount of strikes on the viaduct. I guess a couple of other things, and then Brent, I know you and I have one topic we want to discuss with council, and then I'm going to go to our two presenters. A couple of congratulations to issue with this evening. I want to congratulate Zoe and Spencer at Washington Street Outfitters. Hard to believe it's the 4th birthday of that business already. They have been in business now for 4 years. They started off as just this tiny little store on the second little step-up story of the Laird Arcade. Now they've moved into the big, really cool storefront that they've got on Washington Street, a couple of blocks down. So happy 4th birthday to Washington Street Outfitters and Spencer and Zoe, who own the business. Also, congratulations to John Suter and Matt Starcher of the Tiffin Fire and Rescue Division for passing their paramedic test. They're our newest paramedics. They've been on the force for a little while now. They just completed their test. So congratulations to them. I've, of course, never taken the test, but I know it's not easy. It's very stressful. So we're just very happy and excited for the two of them in the Tiffin Fire and Rescue Division for their completion of that paramedic test. And they're our newest and greatest paramedics on staff. And then also I want to congratulate Tina Shank at JT's Bagel Bar for her expansion and her move. She is now located in the Laird Arcade at the former Put and Pita or Beehive Cafe location. Food is just phenomenal. I've been following her posts on social media with all of the different things that she has. And Tina, if you're listening, I'm going to be in soon because I see you also have lobster rolls. And for any of you on city council, and I know Dale, the city administrator, knows this, I'm a lobster roll fiend. So I will be in there to get mine very soon here in the future. But we're happy for you in your new, larger location. I think you're going to do very well. The expanded menu looks great. So congratulations, Tina. And we wish you the very best at your new location. The only other item that I have before we turn it over to reports this evening is Brent and I wanted to talk. We have fielded a ton, I'm going to guess 15 to 20 now, and probably the last week or two, complaints about some political banners or yard signs with what would be considered by many to be some very obscene language on them in town. And because of the amount of calls and emails we've received, I felt like it's best that maybe if Brent addresses it this evening, because it has taken a lot of our time to try to get to all of these calls and the conversations, and perhaps those that at least are listening can help pass along if it comes up in conversation. But the gist of the story is it is protected by freedom of speech. There are Supreme Court cases with the exact 4-letter word that is on these signs and banners in the community. There are Supreme Court cases that have found that is actually legal. It is protected freedom of speech. So with that, Brent, if you're okay, kind of talking now a little bit about it so we can get the information out to the public.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. It was about a month or so ago that the mayor contacted me because several people in the community were upset with certain banners, flags that were flying on private property, and the banners use the F word, and the complaints were questioning whether that was allowed, whether there was a law locally that we could enforce to have the property owners take down that flag? You know, is there a zoning law, or is there some disorderly conduct law disturbing the peace? Some law that would have criminal teeth if they did not take the banner down. So I looked at the issue and did a little research, and concluded that, in my opinion, that that flag is a protected political speech under the First Amendment of our Constitution, the United States Constitution. And in looking at some research on the issue, I did find a case that I had read years ago, a case that was from the early 1970s, Cohen versus California, that involved a person in California that was wearing a F the draft on their jacket. And they were wearing this walking around the courthouse in Los Angeles. And obviously that kind of language and the sentiment is very objectionable to people, in a similar way that using that language out in public, especially near schools or where public can travel, where kids might see it, is very distasteful and objectionable by probably most people. But in this case, the person was charged in California with disturbing the peace, and the case eventually went up on appeal to the United States Supreme Court. And the court ruled that that use of that term was a part of political speech protected under the First Amendment. And the court said in particular, there needs to be maybe some restraint on speech, but political speech should be very much allowed, because that's one of the bedrocks, fundamental principles of our country, is to allow people to express their opinions. What guardrails might be on that kind of speech? The court did say, is there a direct intent to incite violence or any disturbance? If that's the standard that we may need to apply, a political yard sign or a flag that may have some language, an expletive that is extremely distasteful to most of us, but if it does not incite violence or any particular disturbance, then it may not fall within the few exceptions that we might be able to, as the local city, to limit that type of speech. So as much as we dislike, and many of us dislike that term, regardless of what the political content of that, because that term could be used in various ways depending on whatever your political leanings. But regardless of that, it's my opinion that it falls within political protected speech under the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, and therefore we can't charge the person with any particular crime, criminal violation. And so I've explained that to the mayor. I've explained it to the police department and to many citizens myself over the last month or so. And I wanted to explain it to the city council members and the public that may be attending by Zoom this evening. Are there any questions about the situation and my opinion? Thank you, Mayor. I'll turn the meeting back over to you.
I appreciate the explanation, Brent. And to be clear, so if you all as council members, I don't know if you've gotten calls yet, but if you do, that's kind of the explanation. It's not about specifically what the sign is directed at or who it's directed at, that kind of thing. It doesn't matter. It is covered under the freedom. It's covered under freedom of speech, so we cannot act upon it. It doesn't matter if you agree with it, disagree with it. It is protected by the United States Supreme Court rulings in the past. So at the end of the day, we have to live with it. So I appreciate the law director's explanation for the topic. And with that said, that completes my report before we get into the two reports this evening that we have from other entities to council. Are there any questions or comments for me before I turn it over to Sandusky River Watershed and TSEP folks?
Does anyone have any questions for the mayor? One comment on the viaduct. One way we might be able to slow down the number of accidents there is give all the people driving these semis a reading test. It clearly states what the height of the bridge is, so.
Yeah, I don't think any of them are hitting the bridge because they're not reading it. I think they're hitting the bridge because it's distracted driving is truly what I think it is. Because in order to drive a truck, you have to know the height of your rig.
Right.
You've got a big flashing light. And for those, because it's come up before, people wonder, well, as we paved the road, has that gap gotten smaller? And that's not the case, because we actually, that sign says there's about 6 or 8 inches less of clearance than there actually is. So there's actually about 6 or 8 more inches of space there for someone to fit under it than the sign says is there. So that's not the case at all either. It's just, I really wish these drivers, and it's kind of scary to think about, they're out on the road, and if you're not seeing these bright yellow flashing lights and the 3 signs that you've passed by and this massive beam that you're heading right at, it really makes you worry. And we know 99.99% of our semi drivers are phenomenal, and they're not the issue. It's this very, very minute small percentage that unfortunately are just not paying any attention when they're out driving. And it's kind of scary to think about, but scares you a little bit. Any other questions or comments from council? Okay, well, next I'm going to bring in Jacob Beeler. Jacob is with the Sandusky River Watershed Coalition. And he's going to present this evening about what the coalition does. The city of Tiffin is, of course, a member of the Sandusky River Watershed Coalition. So Jacob, you should be in the room. It's up to you. You don't have to have your camera on if you don't want to, but you'll need to unmute yourself. And the floor is yours, Jacob.
All right. Well, good evening. I'd like to say thank you to everyone for giving me the chance to share some information about the Watershed Coalition. So the Watershed Coalition, the Sandusky River Watershed Coalition, was started back in 1997. It's a local nonprofit organization. Several of you might be aware of what we've been up to for the last several years, but I'm just going to kind of go over a little bit about background about us and stuff like that. So our mission really is to just promote and enhance and conserve the resources within the Sandusky River watershed. So we don't just strictly work in the Tiffin area. We also work throughout the entire watershed. We do stuff with City of Bucyrus, cities of Fremont, and lots of other entities, county agencies and stuff like that as well. But we are actually, so our fiscal agent is Heidelberg University. We are part of the National Center for Water Quality Research there. I have been the coordinator now for 3 years when that change happened. And so one of my many roles that I have there at Heidelberg is actually being the watershed coordinator, that I go out and do all the Watershed Coalition stuff as far as community outreach, organizing events like our annual Sandusky River Clean Sweep. So this is an event that we put together every year where we go out and pick up trash from the river. And we, in the Tiffin area, when we do this, we generally get anywhere from 5 to 10 cubic yards of trash on this one morning of going out and picking up trash. So we find all kinds of stuff from mattresses, the water heaters, all kinds of odd things out there. So it's a really good community event. We typically get around 100 volunteers for that event, and we get excellent support from the city with that in terms of employees and trucks and things like that to help us get the trash out. So we really appreciate that every year that the city helps out with that. And then, so another event that we have every year, we started 3 years ago, we do a Sandusky River Trail Run out at Steyer Nature Preserve, partnered with Seneca Parks. This is our big fundraiser that we do every year. So it's a 5K. Go out and run the trails there along the Sandusky River. Seems to be pretty popular. People enjoy getting out and doing some trail running rather than just your typical 5K, on the streets or something like that too. So that's been gaining in popularity as well. As far as our outreach activities that we do, we really focus mostly on educating the community about water quality issues, why it's important to care about your watershed, things like that. So we do a lot of workshops. We work with farmers and stuff to help them with things they can do to help mitigate their impacts on water quality. But we also work with folks in the city and tell them things they can do as well, like keeping your storm drains cleared and things like that. Not dumping stuff directly down the drain, those kinds of things you don't like to see in the city either. And so we also have lots of school programs. So we go to a lot of the local schools and do events there, teaching kids about watersheds and all that kind of stuff as well. One other activity that we just started up last year is storm drain stenciling. So we actually worked with City of Tiffin again on this. We have stencils that say the Lake Erie starts here, and we go out and we stencil this on the storm drains, and that's just to help promote the idea that anything that goes down those storm drains ends up ultimately in the Sandusky River and out into Lake Erie. So just to get people thinking about, doing the right thing and not dumping oil and gas and other things like that right down the drain. And then we also are going to be working on something else we're going to be doing here in Tiffin is getting some fishing line recycling receptacles put up. We did 10 of these in Fremont last year. And so we have those out and we go around and people can put their fishing line in them rather than just leave it on the bank or end up in the river. And they put this in there and then we go around and collect it, and you can actually send it back to the company that manufactures the fishing line and they recycle it and reuse it. So I have a couple of those that I have worked with Bryce to talk about places we might put those. We're thinking maybe Huss Street Bridge area and a couple other locations too. So that's something else that we would be doing in the Tiffin area as well. As far as our grants that we have currently active, we have a big one that we're doing with North Central Educational Service Center. And this is all Seneca County. Most of the Seneca County schools are involved with this, where we are teaching the kids about riparian habitats. So that area right along the river, whether it be wooded, forested, riparian or whatnot, but why that's important for the river, how that helps as kind of a filter between the things going on the land before stuff can get into the river. And then they get some cool stuff like GoPros and other things like that. And they're actually going out and they're teaching them how to assess how healthy the riparian ecosystem is. And then they're going to make their own videos and stuff like that to share online and create their own YouTube pages and things like that to share their content that they create. So that's a grant that we have. That's through the Ohio EPA Environmental Education Fund that grant is with. And so one other project that I did want to mention too, this one has been submitted, a proposal submitted to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. And again, we partnered with Tiffin City Parks and Recreation, Seneca Parks, and several other local volunteer groups to commit time to help out with volunteer stuff. But we're hoping this grant would get funded, and that would be to actually do invasive species removal at both Clinton Nature Preserve and Sheckelhoff Park. So a lot of the riparian area there is actually the understory trees are actually honeysuckle, which is an invasive species. So this would get that invasive species hopefully removed from the majority of it from both of those parks, but also improve the habitat quality, improve the implications for water quality, and actually really open up the access to the river. You'd be able to see a lot more of it along the trail there as you're walking. So that's another project that we hoping will get funded here. We should find out in a couple months about that one. And then lastly, I just want to share, we do have an upcoming event that we're partnering with Bellevue Public Library, St. Francis Earth Literacy Center, and State Farm on, and that is a film screening of Decoding the Weather. It's a PBS documentary about weather, and we were all very impacted by the weather in the last 48 hours here, so that's very in our thoughts right now. But basically, this looks at how changing climate and things like that are potentially impacting and things you should be prepared for as well, as far as that goes. But I'm going to actually focus on it and be on the discussion at the end of it to talk about what we're finding there at the National Center for Water Quality Research and how what we're finding there in terms of like water quality and actually within our watershed and how that is potentially changing because of climate change and other things like that. So we're seeing stronger flood events, faster risings and stuff like that in the river when we do see rains and things like that. So a lot of that information will be shared and just be a good community forum, open forum on, climate and other things like that. So, and then lastly here too, just in case anybody is interested, we have our website is just sanduskyriver.org. So there's all kinds of good information there, contact information and stuff like that. Has all of our upcoming events and things too. So that is all I had.
Thank you, Jacob. We appreciate all of the information that you've presented this evening. I think this is it's really the Sandusky River Watershed Coalition is really, I think, an asset that few people know much about. I've only in the last couple of years learned more about it, and we appreciate all the help that you've given Bryce and the Parks Department, especially with that grant to try to remove all of that invasive honeysuckle along the trail. We're hopeful that we get it because that would certainly do just what you said and open up the views for folks walking along there and also help with this invasive species. So I didn't know until probably 2 or 3 months ago when Bryce Kuhn, our Parks Director, talked to us about this, that honeysuckle was an invasive species.
Yeah.
I've got it, quite a bit of it along my property in the tree line. And I guess what I'm going to do this spring is take a saw to it and rip all that out of there because I didn't realize. I always enjoy it because it smells great. Well, it smells great, but I didn't realize that it may be damaging the environment and other things here in Tiffin. So I guess I've got some work cut out for me this spring.
Yeah. It can be a project to get it removed. So, that grant, just to get it removed from those two parks, we're looking at maybe 25, 30 acres covered. We had to request about $25,000 to get that done. So, it's a lot of work to get that out of there, but it's worth the man hours to get it out of there because it really does help the environment is, the river riparian area. And like I say, it'll really help open up the access to the river. And there's a lot of the river right through there is really beautiful to look at, and to be able to see more of it from the walking trails would be great. So
definitely, Sheckelhoff's one of the most beautiful paths for folks that don't walk Sheckelhoff and Clinton Nature Preserve out there. It's gorgeous, and I'm so jealous of the tree that Clinton Nature Preserve has. That is it a white birch or a river birch or what is that?
It's a sycamore tree.
Okay, you walk down this trail and it looks like something out of a movie. It almost looks. Yeah, it's just this massive tree in the middle of the walking path and it goes around it. It just looks like something out of a Robert Frost novel or something that you'd expect to see. So are there any questions or comments for Jacob about the Sandusky River Watershed Coalition? Rich, do you want me to call on him or do you want to call on him?
Go ahead, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead, Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Wheeler, I think most of us realize the Sandusky River ends at the Lake Erie front or ending. Where does Sandusky River start at? From another body of water, or is it small streams, or roughly where does it start at?
Yeah, so it starts at very small streams down by the crestline area. So the actual watershed itself has tributaries or little streams running into it that it covers 12 different counties throughout the area. So it really does have a large land coverage area. It's the second largest watershed land-wise next to the Maumee River, which is, the big chunk of Northwest Ohio. So that goes into Lake Erie. So it really is an important watershed, not just, from what we do in Tiffin, but what others downstream and upstream of us are doing too. So everything we do in Tiffin impacts Fremont, but we've been impacted by Upper Sandusky and Bucyrus and things going on there. So that's why, I mentioned the river cleanup this past year. We actually did our first ever watershed wide. So normally it would just be like a one-day event in Tiffin, a one-day event in Fremont. We actually did it all on one day, had a lot of different partners involved, and we had volunteers in Bucyrus, Tiffin, and Fremont. And it was really a cool event to have all that going on, especially during COVID, still get a chance to get people out and, do some good out in the community, cleaning up the river. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Jacob? Okay, well, Jacob, we really appreciate you presenting. You're welcome back at council anytime that you have any updates, and maybe if you and Bryce get that grant, we could have you and Bryce on here in the fall or something and talk about how the cleanup went and share some of the pictures and whatnot. So,
okay, that'd be great.
We appreciate it. Have a great evening.
Thanks, you too.
All right, I'm going to get Jacob out of here and bring in our TCEP team. All right. So next up we have TCEP, and they will be doing their quarterly update to City Council. You know, I'm getting better and better at this reading and clicking things and trying to talk at the same time thing. So as I bring them in there, we've got David coming in. There's Amy, Audrey on her way, and here comes Nick. So the folks of you with TCEP, you'll have to decide if you're turning your cameras on, you'll have to do that and also unmute yourself or mute yourself. David, I see you there. Most of you won't have a clue what I'm talking about, but Nick, I know you're joining right now. I forgot to hit record, so you know what to do. It's become the usual habit, but you know how to fix that problem, so you've got me. So, all right, we always are excited to hear when David and his team join at TCEP to give us a lot of the updates of projects they're working on. I know the question came up 2 weeks ago about the skating rink, so I did tell David to expect that question this evening, so I'm sure one of his team will be tackling that. But without further ado, the fine individuals of David, Zach, Audrey Flood, Amy Reinhardt, and Nick Dutro at the Tiffin Seneca Economic Partnership, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much, Mayor. If you could give me the ability to share the screen, that would be great. Last time you entrusted me with that, I didn't let you down, so.
Yeah, but I found out that there was a way to do it without actually handing the entire control of the meeting off to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting. So start talking for a little bit while I figure out how I do that. Oh, here we go.
Hey, no worries.
There we go.
While you're doing that, did you get it?
You should be able to share.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
All right.
There we go. See if that comes in. Does that work?
I see it. Do you all see it? Okay, they're nodding their heads, David. They can see it.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, it's great to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity to update City Council. We're missing one of our colleagues. County offices were closed, so I'm going to be pinch hitting for Carol to talk about some of the exciting workforce things. But to kick it off, you start off with a bang. We're going to have none other than our community development guru, who also heads up our entrepreneurship and many other initiatives. If I can get this going, Audrey Flood. So Audrey, please take it away.
All right, can you all hear me? Awesome. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us tonight. Excited to give you an update on what all we've been working on. So first I'll start with some of the kind of top success stories of 2020. David, you want to? Yep, thank you. Some of the great things, kind of more, showing you some fun things that happened. So starting with rural development, I think one of the best things that came out of 2020 was the increased communication and connection with our rural elected officials. We've always had a really great relationship with you all here at the city, and we're definitely trying to connect more with our rural elected officials. So that's been really great. And working with some of the rural leaders in the villages and townships on their own development initiatives. They want to lead, or they want to take the example of Tiffin. So that's really great. I also want to mention that another great story from 2020 with the rural businesses was the COVID help and emergency assistance that we were able to extend in many different ways to the rural businesses. A lot of them, that was their first time even finding out about TCEP, and we were happy to be able to help them in various ways there. A couple of specific business stories I wanted to share from the rural parts of the county is Lane of Dreams, which is in Eden Township. They are a business that I've known and participated with since I was a small child, and it was really great to be able to help them out this past year. And then also Hand Shoe Cookies, which is pictured there on the screen. That's in Scipio Township, another rural business that was able to do a great expansion of her business, both physically and in what she does. Another, really great business out in the township that we were able to celebrate and to help this year. Some community development stories. It was a bit of a rocky story, but we were approved for the community development block grant funds for Nature Trails Park. I know Ken has a wonderful story with his family with that park, and we were able to get that approved, and it was my very first community development block grant story. So it's still unfolding, but we were able to successfully get that done. Another great kind of thing that happened was building our Tiffin Community Development Committee in 2020. So that was brand new, and it has been a great ride so far. A lot of you on the call actually participated in that committee, so we really appreciated you coming on board and helping us out with that brand new committee, giving your input and support. The biggest story for community development of 2020 was our new Dream Big Tiffin initiative. This was a vision that David and I worked together on. We brought in this plan from the Dayton area, as we've presented to you all before. And the overarching goal of the initiative is to identify more projects than ever before, and to really engage the community in ways that we increase what we've been doing in that sense. So that was a brand new big initiative to improve community development for the city and to provide better community development service for you all. So that's been a great story of this year that is still in progress. And then the picture there also is the Y Playground project, which was a great community development project that I was able to support in 2020 as well. Some good stories in entrepreneurship. We were also able to build the Tiffin Seneca Entrepreneurship Committee, which again is a brand new effort of trying to bring people together to really build up our capacity to help small business owners and new entrepreneurs in the city as well as the county. So it was great to be able to get a group together to start working on that and help me lead that area. We also launched our strategic plan process in 2020, and we were able to partner with GLCAP. The mayor helped us sign off to get a grant through them, or to participate in their grant rather, to provide some free services to us to be able to work on our entrepreneurship strategic plan, which has been great to get that kind of free resource. And once it's finished, we'll have a roadmap of where to go for entrepreneurship, like we have roadmaps for so many other areas. So we're really excited about having launched that the past year. And then also the Creating Entrepreneurial Opportunities, or CEO program. We have been working on that for quite a while, but 2020 saw lots of success in that area. We founded the new nonprofit organization that is a new standalone that will run and fund and manage that program. So that was a really great big lift. Again, there are several of you on the call that are, have supported that in some way. So we thank you for that. But that's, again, the program that's going to support high school juniors and seniors to help them learn about entrepreneurship, specifically here in our community, and encourage them to stay and build businesses in our community. So that was another great success of 2020. And David, you want to move to the next slide? I'm going to run through some quick metrics from 2020 for those of you who are more, stat oriented than story. So in rural development, we have more rural business projects identified than ever before. There are about 43 active right now at the moment. We were able to grow a strong partnership with this chamber like we have never before for the rural areas, and brought a handful, 5 or so businesses in partnership with them to be able to aid rural businesses there. Continue to build the amount of insight or business outreach calls that we're doing in the rural areas. We distributed over 100 free PPE kits, which included City of Tiffin and also rural businesses. So that was a great success from 2020, which was another COVID emergency relief item. At the farmers market, which I participate in the board of the new operating group, Seneca County Common Ground, we started the season with 8 vendors and we finished at 35. So that was a great growth that we showed there in serving both the community and our small rural businesses that participate there. In community development, we added 20 volunteers to that area. So that was a great success there. We brought in $120,000 approved for the Nature Trails Park project. And then as far as our community development initiative, this is the first year. So we started with 35 ideas from the public and 10 project submissions. And then 150 to 160 input responses or engagements from the community members. So again, first year, we hope to build from there, but those were some great numbers to start out with. In entrepreneurship, we saw a commitment of investment of over $100,000 in the CEO program, including both the startup costs and our first set of about 40 investors that are going to keep the program in operation. We served 186 businesses with the CARES program, which David will talk more about, but that was personally a lot of work that I was able to touch businesses, at least 186 businesses there. We put on at least 20 webinars for small businesses in 2020. We held 10 to 15 business forums, and we also added 20 volunteers in our entrepreneurship area as well. David, you want to move to my last slide? All right, so what are we going to do in 2021? Some of our top goals in each area here. In rural development, we hope to continue to support our rural villages and townships in their development initiatives. Again, they're really taking the lead from you all here in the city, and I'm excited to continue to support them in various ways with some new goals that they have coming this year. We also want to continue reaching more rural businesses than ever before with our check-in calls, our outreach and insight program. David will touch on this, but I'm really excited to use the Fortune 500 program and our co-act partners to be able to reach more rural businesses and provide support to them than we have in other years. And then lastly, in that area, we want to continue to build our personal or, our professional knowledge in rural development, incentives and resources, and, be a hub for those businesses as we are for the city of Tiffin. In community development, our big goal here is to really continue to build the culture of community development, as David and I like to say. We really want community development in the city, which again is funds going into public projects separate from economic development, which is, private companies. This is public projects like parks and beautification and quality of life type of resources. We want that to feel like something that the whole community is involved in and that everyone has a say in. And the main tool that we're going to use to do that is, again, the Dream Big Tiffin program. So we're going to continue to build that this year and, get more project ideas and more input than ever before. And then be able to utilize the funds effectively and efficiently as best as we can. And then also provide service to those community development projects. As the team already does with our business projects within the city of Tiffin, we also want to begin to provide a level of service to our community development projects, both public and private. And then a couple of the specific projects that we're looking forward to seeing a lot of progress on in 2020 are, again, Nature Trails Park. There are many hurdles yet to still complete that, but we hope to see that actually completed by the end of the year of 2021. And then two others that I'll highlight are the Community Kitchen Project, which again is through Seneca County Common Ground, which I'm a board member of, and we hope to make a lot of progress serving that project to move it forward, as well as the new homeless shelter or the Transformational Life Center, supporting that as a project as best we can as well. And then in entrepreneurship, our goals are the CEO program that I mentioned, the Creating Entrepreneurial Opportunities. We've been working on this for about 2 years now, and it will actually launch in 2021. So we will actually begin to serve our first group of students this year. So I'm really looking forward to that. We also hope to finish almost completely the entrepreneurship strategic plan. So again, we'll have that roadmap by the end of the year, almost complete. And there's a lot of hurdles that we're gonna hope to jump over for that this year. And lastly, again, just using that to become a better hub of resources for our entrepreneurs and anyone wanting to start a small business here in the city of Tiffin and the county. So those are some of our big goals. That wraps me up. And we'll move on to Nick.
Thank you so much, Audrey. Really appreciate it. Nick, why don't you guide council through? Are there any questions for Audrey? Okay, Nick, take it away.
Excellent, thank you, and good evening. Glad to be here speaking to all of you. So we'll jump right in with an overview of 2020, and I think obviously our biggest story of the year is COVID-19. So looking back, just using the unemployment rate as kind of a measuring stick, Seneca County ended the year at a 5% rate, which is below the state's 5.2% average. Now that rate ebbed and flowed throughout the year, reached as high as 21.3% in April, and then went as low as 4.3% in October. For the year as a whole, Seneca's average unemployment rate was 8.1%, which was the same as the US average, but below Ohio's 8.2% average. However, it should be stated that that is far above the past 2 years. 2019 ended with a 4.1% unemployment rate, 2018 a 4.4. And I do want to thank Carol for providing me with that information. So, it goes without saying that, COVID has been tragic, that not only has there been job losses, kids being home, not being able to go to school, families that don't have a loved one around the dinner table tonight. But I do mention all of that kind of as background to say this was a very good year for economic development in Seneca County and Tiffin, especially. In 2020, we ranked number 6 in Site Selection magazine for large private economic development projects. Now that's out of 531 micropolitans in the US, which is fantastic. Being in the top 10 is really incredible. We added 3 new manufacturers this year. This is the first new industrial companies that are coming to Tiffin and Seneca County since Grammar had arrived in 2003. And we had considerable numbers of new jobs announced. So many of our industrial companies in Tiffin are growing or looking to grow. And that's really hopeful. And you know, we had a lot of successes from that last year. So looking at, thank you. Looking at some projects that were announced last year, some that I definitely want to mention. Church and Dwight invested $38 million in its facility in Old Fort, adding new product lines, machinery, construction, and expanded its workforce by 60 people, which brought their employment rate, to 240. And that was just the start. I've been speaking regularly with the plant manager, and they continue to be adding people there, which is just a really great story. Durrell Home Furnishings, which is the parent company of Ameriwood Industries, chose to expand its Tiffin facility, bring 87 jobs to Seneca County for a total workforce of 248 people, and they plan to invest $3 million into their operations. And we certainly thank City Council for their part in helping them grow with the new jobs program that was approved by City Council. Finally, TH Plastics, which is a custom plastic injection molding company that supplies the appliance and automotive industries, announced they purchased the industrial spec building on Tiber Road and are investing to more than double the size of the building, bringing machinery and equipment to the new plant. The company will be investing millions in our community, adding a significant number of new jobs. And again, this is a fantastic partnership that we've had, not only with the developer, Development Solutions, which built the building. This was land that the city of Tiffin had owned. To see it used in such a way that bringing a significant investment to our community is really fantastic. The city is being a huge supporter of this project by investing in road infrastructure, as well as the state of Ohio through ODOT and the state of Ohio in providing some of the funding for roads that helped to bring this company here. So really excellent just collaboration from everyone's part. This is not the end of what we've had or what we've seen for industrial and commercial development. We had MBDS open a new plant in Tiffin. TPC Food Service purchased the old GE plant. Webster invested $3 million in new machinery and equipment. Arnold Machine acquired a division of Finley Machine and Tool. American Plastics made a $7 million investment at its Tiffin operations, and Five Star Maintenance and Oseco both announced expansions. Additionally, in commercial development, NRP Group is moving ahead with its second phase of the Tiffin Point project. Circle K has now opened a new gas station. Little Willows Academy and Ultimate Touch Salon both opened on Miami Street. East Chicago Pizza announced they'd be returning to Tiffin after a few years not being in this market. Tiffin Drive-In Theater was purchased and major investments going on there. Dr. Chris Sears is building a new office right across from the Willows at Tiffin. Then the Head Shed and Clinton Heights Golf Course both announced expansions, and Rich Zeiss announced a condo project. So across the board, be that residential, be that restaurants, retail, there's many services that are continuing to open and seeing Tiffin and Seneca County as a place to continue to grow. David, if you would. Thank you. So 2021, I think is definitely going to continue to be a busy year. So as we mentioned, with TH Plastics having taken over or purchased the industrial spec building there on Tiber Road, that leaves kind of a hole in the marketplace for a newer industrial building. So David and I have been working since the middle of last year and nonstop since we've gotten back on making Seneca County competitive in the market, getting the next building, getting industrial land. Right now, the only available industrial property is TPC's old facility on 6th Avenue, and they're not really out of there yet. So we need to make sure that we're ready for the next company that's looking to come to our area. So we have been working with our economic development committee. We've been identifying and ranking available land for future development. That includes contracting with consultants as part of this process. And we've just received back some requests for proposals from our construction members on the building of a new spec building. Not only, again, is this critical just for our ability to attract new companies, personally, it is my capstone project as I go to become a certified economic developer. So it's very important to me to see this, this completed this year. Meanwhile, I continue to be busy with projects. I've got 39 projects that I'm working on. The majority of those I touch at least on a monthly basis. So they are very much focused on kind of our existing manufacturers who are looking at doing expansions or growing their companies. And another focus for this year is just reaching out to companies. So we've been working to reach more companies than ever before. We have our Seneca Fortune 500 initiative, which I know David's going to be speaking about a little bit later. But already we and representatives from Jobs Ohio have been connecting with companies, doing video calls, and we'll just be doing more of those throughout the year, ways to reach out and see how our companies are doing, see what we can do to provide them some service. Also, I'm beginning the process of updating our website, just improving the look and functionality, making it a real marketing asset for the county and the city. I expect in the next quarter to be working pretty diligently on that. And then we will have a committee to come together that will find the company that will ultimately help us improve and make our website the kind of world-class service that we strive for at TCEP. David, if you don't mind, thank you. Finally, I want to just provide a quick update on our media stats. As you know, I write the press releases and work with the social media for TCEP. Last year, we produced 73 press releases for TCEP and an additional 23 per our contract with the city of Tiffin. These have resulted in 194 stories in print and on the web and 30 TV segments. So we've had a huge amount of press here, not just in our local market, but regionally. And then additionally, we reached 136,779 people on Facebook alone with just these press announcements. So not even including our other social media, just these announcements alone.
Great,
and that
thank you so much.
concludes me. Yeah, thank you.
Any questions for Nick? Okay, with that, we'll move it on to Amy Reinhardt, our fearless downtown revitalization leader. Amy, take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Appreciate you allowing us to be here this evening. David, you can go to the first slide. So just a quick recap of 2020. As we all know, 2020 was particularly difficult on our small businesses. I know it was difficult on everybody, but small businesses did take a relatively large hit. And so I'm going to, at this point, still encourage you to continue to shop small. Remember that we're past the holidays now, but they're still out there and they still need our support. We had a number of businesses that actually did a bit of a pivot just so that they could continue to succeed and stay open last year. So a couple of just short stories for you. Releve Bar Studio, Donna had opened here and she had her studio in the Laird Arcade. But when the shutdown came, she needed to consider another option for being able to stay open. And she was able to, as she had always hoped, start an online class. So she is now doing online classes and in-person classes. So what she started, she's able to continue to utilize today. Simply Susan's, her pivot was because her store was completely shut down, but being a retail establishment, almost every night was getting on and having an online sale virtually through Facebook. So again, she continues to do that periodically, but still a great addition to her business. And the Renaissance of Tiffin. Dave opened the Pink Lady, which is his food truck. He started the Renaissance on Wheels, the party bus. Again, both of them great opportunities to franchise and to continue to supplement the income for the bar when it was closed. And with that, we're very grateful for being able to work with City Council and getting the DORA passed with the shutdown and then the bars and restaurants having limited hours and that continuing to change. The DORA has been essential in helping them to supplement their income. Bringing the picnic tables in from the parks and being able to allow outdoor seating and safety for people in the downtown. creating some virtual events, the auction of firsts, which was bringing in some opportunities for funding as the businesses were opening up, working with the library, getting Tiffin Tales. Again, just making sure that we were staying in front of the community so that they were still aware that the small businesses were here, downtown is here, you know, remember us and come out and support as best you can remotely. We had great support from the Advertiser Tribune. WTOL continued to do a number of stories on our downtown and small businesses. Revitalize Ohio Magazine, we were actually recognized twice last year. First for our efforts during the shutdown, and then secondly for the fact that we did receive 2 state awards at Heritage Ohio last year. So very excited. One of those was our Downtown Placemaking Award for National Corner and Frost County Amphitheater. So despite all that was going on, we still continue to see growth in the downtown last year. David, you can flip. So we had 10 facade enhancement projects approved last year. 7 of those were through the city of Tiffin, and we were grateful for the funds that we were able to get. But when the city did shut down and the funds were put a halt, then we were able to actually get $20,000 from Heritage Ohio for additional facade projects. We were actually able to get 3 additional facade projects approved with the additional funding. And total, when all 10 of those projects are completed, they will result in $570,000 worth of investment in the downtown. Last year, we saw 10 new businesses open, 32 new jobs were created, and just under $4 million of investment last year. Now, I will let you know that that $4 million is small businesses, startup costs, people doing a refresh on their space, that is building renovations, that is also community projects like the Jefferson Street Streetscaping Project, the gas line project. So that is encompassing all downtown investment in 2020. You can go to the next slide, David. So as we're moving into 2021, what are our goals? 5 to 10 new apartments downtown, 10 new businesses, looking for ways to track retail sales to see how they're changing and growing over time, and creating work plans. This is a succession planning. So as we have committee chairs, or we have project chairs or event chairs that are currently working on a project, those work plans give us that information. So when they decide to step down, then we have a plan in place and we can hand that off to the next person that will be taking over either that committee or that project. You can go to the next slide. So lastly, what are we working on here in 2021? So transformation strategy, making downtown Tiffin a place to live and thrive. That is our goal. So we're working on planning and implementation, measuring our impacts, community visioning, and understanding the market. So how are we going to do that? So our Main Street 4 points are 4 committees. So business enhancement, working on the business outreach, reaching out to our businesses downtown right now. How are they doing? Are there any incentives that are available to them? What can we do to assist them? But also working on that in recruitment of new business in the downtown. So we have a great problem. We're running low on new spaces that are available in the downtown. So love to have that problem, but we want to be very strategic about what it is that we're recruiting in. So we're looking at ways to reach out to the community, get government input so that we can begin to be very strategic about what it is that we're recruiting into downtown. So goal 1, increase our business mix. Second, working on design. The design committee is, of course, going to continue to support the facade enhancement program. That is such a key program for continuing to preserve the history that we have in downtown. We're beginning to look at art and art policy through the Dream Big Tiffin. There was a project in the art realm. So we're looking at proper locations and what types of applications do we need and insurance and that kind of thing. So beginning to look at what that might look like as we're unfolding. So with that, creating that environment that people want to be in, the look of downtown is our design goal. So increasing foot traffic is goal number 2. As we continue into the marketing and retailers committees, so promoting downtown as a whole, putting on different events in the downtown. And as we're putting on events and bringing people into the downtown, that increases foot traffic. So we're looking at goal 3, an economic boost. And moving into organization, which is our operations and downtown development committee, their goal this year is how do we share and communicate with the community what Main Street is and how that is so key and vital to our community. Additionally, accreditation. We are very, very excited here in January to have received for the 5th year in a row both our state and national Main Street accreditation. and putting on our annual Downtown Summit and Celebration, which will be taking place in September this year. We're very, very hopeful that that will be an in-person event, but we will see how that all unfolds. But that is our opportunity to share the growth and development that's going on in the downtown annually, and to award those in the community that are doing just wonderful things for us. And so goal number 4, having a business mindset. So that is our plan here for 2021. Does anyone have questions for me? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Amy. Really appreciate it. So I'm going to take it away and share some of the things that Carol wanted me to share this evening about what's going on in workforce development, which, as we know, continues to be the #1 need of businesses coming out of the coronavirus. So number 1, Carol wanted me to let you know that the 4-county group, that is a 4-county collaborative initiative with Sandusky County, Ottawa County, as well as our friends in Huron County, is going strong. And they're setting up a virtual career fair for high school seniors that's going to take place on April 13th. So see some innovation there to try to expose the youth to the career opportunities that are in our own backyard. Secondly, Business Advisory Council. So huge accomplishment. We were able to merge both the Tiffin City Schools Business Advisory Council with the North Central Ohio Educational Service Center one, which covered all the county districts, into one, streamlining it for the businesses and putting it underneath what was originally the Tiffin City Schools led Northwest Career Ready initiative, which is in its 2nd year. Again, just trying to streamline the leadership with the goal of getting work-based learning to every kid. So we're excited about that. And then on the employer videos, kind of ramping it back up post the coronavirus shutdown. 5 videos have been finished. There's one for grammar that's currently being edited, and there's going to be an initial meeting with Taiho on putting together employer videos. Now, these are not only ones we use to help promote career opportunities that they have. These are ones we get in the schools, and these are ones not just like, hey, we got this great product, but what is great about our culture? Why do people like to work here? The employees are on display. So super excited to keep that going. And again, it's part of our long-term workforce development initiatives. Special projects, manufacturing showcase. This is exciting. So something that usually happens in the fall. Carol kind of helps lead this initiative, and what they've been working on is how do we do this in a coronavirus era? So what they've done is they've done filming at Manel Milling and Fostoria and National Machinery here in Tiffin, and they've put together activity kits that during the month of March, schools are going to be able to do these activities with the kids, watch the video inside the plant, know what's going on, get engaged, get excited about manufacturing, and dispel some of those myths that it's not, that it's a dirty job, but it's high now, so they can find out it's high tech, great benefits, great pay, great career opportunities. So we're excited all the work they've done to make it virtual and make it viable. So they're working very hard on that. Carol wants to let you know that, one of the Custom Class Solutions, it's a Fostoria company, but Carol's making apprenticeships and apprenticeship funding here available in Seneca County like nowhere else in the state. This just happens to be a Fostoria company, $375,000, and every one of their employees are going to get a state certified apprenticeship credential. And so we're excited because there are other companies like Grammar and others in Tiffin that are utilizing this, but just goes to show you that our local Ohio Means Jobs office is bringing home the bacon and is making that bacon available to our local companies. Then Job Seneca County is our Facebook page that we use to promote job opportunities. So this was launched in March of 2019. So a little under 2 years ago. It has 2,000 followers, 3,000 posts. I mean, they're posting so many a week on these opportunities. They're reaching 1 million people a year, and employer videos, again, also get put out there with the opportunity. So again, this was something like, how do we help employers recruit? This is just one more tool in their toolkit, costs them nothing, and continues to get great popular response from the people out there looking for career opportunities. Business services. So, there was a little, Carol wanted me to share that there was a little bit of lull in terms of the coronavirus, but they did have 163 job orders last year, 12 first-time users. This is, looking when you put in a job order, I'm looking for this person, and it goes online to monster.com and Ohio Means Jobs, plus do resume filtering, sorting, and look at the state database for people, personalized services. Carol said already through today, she's got 6 new first-time users. That just goes to show you how it is really ramping up along with the economy. Also, money. So incumbent worker training, a lot of Tiffin companies and Seneca County companies, $47,000 last year reimbursed to employers with another 25,000 set to go in their pockets as well. Wage reimbursement for new hires, 50K in the pocketbooks of our companies to help with wage reimbursement if those people qualify. And then last but not least, a youth work experience program where they can pay for the wages and get youth the experience. So Carol has always done, is doing an incredible job in getting companies the most amount of money they can for training and wages that's possible. Last slide on workforce development, 2021 goals: increase the number of new business customers, so increase our penetration, businesses that have never used those services in Tiffin and in Seneca County. Secondly, continue to promote the funding resources that are available to employers. Most recently, we did a webinar that we put on our YouTube channel about Tech Cred, which is going to get refunded at the beginning of March, up to $2,000 for each employee that gets a certified credential, and then up to $30,000 per company. And there are different tiers of money. So she wants to just continue to promote these funding resources and get them in the hands of these employers. Third, remain active with these larger initiatives that are long-term plays. It's like your investment portfolio. It's not just about the short term, it's about the long term. We got to help that third of students that really just aren't accessing already skilled trades or college to really be able to make their move into the workforce and have a productive life. And last but not least, and Carol continues to do this year after year after year, continue to assist this place, Tiffin and Seneca County, be a best practice county with respect to workforce development. So that's the workforce development report. Any questions on that before I head into my comments as president and CEO? Okay, so heading into my comments, I think the first thing I want to say is that, I started here on January 6, 2014. And the reason I remember that date, not only was the beginning of the year, it was the polar vortex. We had 40, below zero temperatures. It was level 3 emergency. City offices were closed. I went on a Monday to my first city council meeting and the door was shut. I'm like, what's the problem? Because I wasn't paying attention to the weather. And so it's just like that now. And I remember my first week and I talked to Rich. I remember about this saying, Rich, what's going on? Because we had Staples leave. We had Gordon Lumber was declaring they were going on. Rich was like, what do I do? Give him, hand over the reins to you. We said, you know what? This is the beginning of something great. I promise I'm going to honor your legacy. And since then, it's been amazing, right? 2,000 new jobs have been announced to be created, $600 million new investment, and we keep on going. And I can tell you that the good news tonight is that, we're coming out of the shadows of the coronavirus. That's not to say that some businesses haven't suffered and are still recovering, but on the whole, we continue to move forward resolute in our pursuit of excellence, progress, and incredible quality of life for all. And we think we're going to continue to move in that direction. I get inspired by Audrey and Nick and Amy and Carol, I wish you were here, by all that they're doing and all the volunteers and all our committees helping us out, as well as Sam Bucky. He's a Heidelberg student who's been working with us on business outreach and a number of other tasks, as we like to use college interns. But they inspire me when I hear what they're doing. And we feed off each other and we feed off city council, because this is one of the best city councils in the state and you're all about what's best for the community and working towards that. And we really appreciate it. So I just want to say, I hope the council members have gotten the quarterly report. If you have any questions about it or did not receive it, let us know. We'll be happy to get that to you or answer any questions. It provides a snapshot. As Nick indicated, he says he's got 39. We got more than 150 projects. I hear the mayor talk about this. The project pipeline is very robust. There's a lot coming down the pike, and we anticipate some announcements coming presently just within the next few months. Also, our new jobs and investment survey. So every year, we started this year, we want to put out an investment survey to the entire community about where their employment count has changed, how things have been, and do they have any investment plans, hiring plans. We not only want to get a sense, not just of those companies that are announcing growth, but where are we overall in the economy from year to year? It's going to give us and for policy, city council and county commissioners, a better read on where we've been and where we're going. And so we're excited about that. So now what I'd like to do is kind of give you highlights. I want to do a kind of recap. From my perspective, what are the 6 biggest highlights from our key priority areas? One, projects last year, not in the middle of coronavirus, $91 million in new announced investment, 451 new jobs. Those, of course, are not net new jobs because some businesses had to lay off, but on the net whole, hundreds of new jobs. Programs, Tiffin and Seneca Cares programs. Audrey has worked her butt off on this. The whole team has pitched in. We're still working. on it, 1.2 million, 186 awards. A number of, we hear stories all the time. You are to be thanked, the administration, city council, for what you did and giving more money to the county, which went all to Tiffin City businesses. So huge difference in the lives of these entrepreneurs and these small business owners. Third program area, our priority area, is organization. We retained all of our members, and we've gotten highest ratings from our stakeholders than we've ever had. So 4.5 out of a 5-point scale, which is just, we want to know how people think we're doing. Fourth priority area, real estate. We are pleased that the 50,000 square foot spec building sold in November. Again, continuing a rich tradition, SIDC of putting up spec buildings and bringing new companies. And we expanded our search for industrial land in the fourth quarter to more than 40 sites. We've narrowed it down to about 7. And Nick talked about the consultants we're bringing on board to analyze those and rank order the next industrial park for Tiffin. Retention expansion, we were able to connect with more than 250 businesses through our regular efforts. You add in the CARES programs, we had about 300 businesses we were looking to connect with. And then communication and marketing, Nick talks that we do about 100 releases depending on the year, sometimes it vacillates, and we get double that in the exposure. So that's a huge marketing tool for us in attracting new companies, as well as exciting the people who are in our community already to do more. Okay, my last slide, round and third base coming home. What are the major initiatives in each of those priority areas for 2021? Super excited. We're looking at least another 40 million in new announcement, at least 100 net new jobs. We're so used to, we've just been very fortunate. We got such a great community, such great businesses, such great people. Every year we see this investment in these new jobs. And so we're hoping we get 100 net new jobs, another 40 million announced this year. Programs, we have 34 individual programs that we manage and services that we provide. We want to continue to do that, plus connect our businesses to the total 175 resources that are out there. Third, in our organizational development area, we're going to be doing some private fundraising. So the city and the county has upped their game in terms of continuing to give us funding. We need to increase our staff capacity, and we're going to be raising money from the private sector to do that. So that's a big initiative for 2021. And hoping to hire someone in the third quarter of this year as an operations manager. So that's our plan in the organizational area. Fourth, real estate, new spec building. Nick talked about it, new industrial park or expansion of the existing industrial park, super big priorities. Number 5, retention and expansion. This is the Seneca Fortune 500, which is what it says. We're hoping to reach 500 companies, almost double what we did this year. And we really thank Carol for getting us some additional grant money, but 500 companies this year. We're going to reach out, let them know what kind of resources are there. Great partnership with Seneca Regional Chamber. Love what Bryce Riggs and his crew are doing over there, and we want to continue to work with them. Communication and marketing, we're going to completely revamp the website. And like we did with the community branding, we're going to partner with the chamber, with Destination Seneca County, the city and the county to do a collaborative web, revamp approach where we all work together to find someone that maybe can help us all connect better, and where everybody would like some, upgrades in their website. We could all do it together like we did with the successful branding. So those are big major initiatives. Tip of the iceberg in 2021. Super excited about what we got planned and what this year is going to look like. With that, I'll take a breath and see if there are any questions.
Well, David, that was the first thing that I was going to ask you, is if you do ever breathe. So I'm glad that you are breathing now. But you and your team, you can tell the excitement and how passionate all of you are about the jobs that you do. I guess, where to start. It's a lot to unpack hearing this. And I know I hear most of this because I'm on your board, and you and I meet frequently and discuss all of this. But one of the first things that comes to my mind is, there's a small underlying tone that we occasionally hear that the only thing that happens in Tiffin are restaurants and places to eat. And there are no factory or good paying jobs. It's all this service industry. And I know you kind of touched on it, it's in your presentation, but what is your, as Chief of Economic Development, as somebody who has worked at the state level, who has done international business development, who's been all over the globe working in Germany and Japan and other places, what do you say to that? Or what is your comment?
My comment is, since 1983, when this organization was started, it has been really focused on making sure that we grow, protect, and strengthen the manufacturing and industrial sector in this town as a key pillar of what makes us successful. 1 out of every 4 people is employed there. And if you look at the growth we've had, you look at the $600 million, I can guarantee you that probably at least 500 of that is the industrial sector. And if you look at the new jobs, the largest sector creating new jobs of the 2,000 new jobs has been the industrial sector. And then I would say exactly what Nick said, 3 new, manufacturers and, folks like Ameriwood, which closed down facilities in Canada and Michigan and continuing to grow here. It is essential. They are good paying jobs, great benefits, growth opportunities, high tech. And we just continue to see advanced manufacturing being the strength, one of the key strengths of this community. We're fortunate in that we have a great education sector. We have a great healthcare sector. We have a great food processing and surrounding the county agribusiness sector. But we have manufacturing and industry in our DNA, and we will always, and it is continuing to grow. It is not shrinking. In Tiffin, Ohio, and in Seneca County, Ohio, it is growing and it is stronger. And in other communities, it may not be. We know that because companies aren't choosing to grow in other communities. They're choosing to grow here, but this is a place they want to be. And we're going to continue to do everything in our power to make it happen. And I would say there's a reason why that's the majority. We have a full-time person dedicated on it. Nick's on it every single day. 39 projects, those are industrial projects, the vast majority of those. So that's what I would say. We're excited about manufacturing. We're excited about its future. Rich did it for a quarter of a century, built the new industrial parks, and we're still doing it because it's the present, past, and future of this community.
I think, you've answered the question very well. And I knew a lot of what I expected you to say there, but it's helpful to hear it, I think, from the public standpoint and from others, from you, someone who has been so immersed in economic development and is literally in their blood and has done this across the globe, across the state, et cetera. I think it's helpful for you to state that. And I always find it interesting because, we put out a post, the city, TCEP, and we put out information about a new restaurant coming here, and there's 1,000 likes on the post and 400 shares. But it seems like any time that there's a post about a new manufacturer expanding, it doesn't get that work. And I get it, because people seem to like and spread and tag people in posts that are geared more about something that's cool or fun to do or a place to eat. And so I think it's a struggle that the city, that your organization continues to have to deal with, is how we get that good information out there and explain that the food stuff is the thing that everybody talks about a lot more. But in reality, there are a ton of very good paying jobs in the manufacturing sector available in Tiffin right now that I know Carol Curran could have talked about if she was here this evening. So I guess that's great information, David. Are there any other comments or questions for me?
Yeah, am I on?
Yeah.
Am I on mute?
Yep.
No, great presentation, all of you. Great information. I congratulate you all on your success. You have a tough job. David, I just want to say that you've put together a great team. They're all smart. They're all articulate. And I think one of the key ingredients is they're all enthusiastic. You can tell they love what they're doing. And when you meet people, when you're selling this community, enthusiasm is one of the greatest gifts that you can have when you're presenting. So I just want to say that you represent us all very well. Anybody that questions what's going on in this community, all you have to do is hop in your vehicle and drive around and look at all the changes that are happening. So it doesn't happen by accident. It happens because we have people in the right place, and you're all in the right place. We have a plan. We're working together, and I just want to congratulate you. Keep up the good work. I know you will. Tough year, but looking at the results, it was awesome. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
David, could we get you to disable your screen share so we can see everyone?
Yep. Sorry, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Questions from, sorry, Nick wants to talk. Go ahead.
Mayor, I just wanted to make a comment because I think, you bring up a great point, which is, when there's a new restaurant or retail shop that opens, obviously that gets a lot of attention. But, we work in a community where all of those things work together, right? Having a downtown that is growing and thriving like it is, having our commercial section continuing to grow and new companies invest in our area, that all helps create a town where we have these manufacturers wanting to come in, where we have people wanting to move, where we see this residential development happening. So, all of these things really work together. So even, any of these stories, they all kind of help paint that picture of just the kind of growth and the great things happening in Tiffin and Seneca County.
Very well said, Nick. Any other questions or comments from council, administration, anyone? Well, David, you and your team either floored them or put them to sleep. No, we can tell everybody. I think that's just so much good information that everyone is processing it. So we thank you and your team for being here this evening and for everything that you continue to do to drive economic development and economic and community development in the city of Tiffin. We really do appreciate that.
It's a privilege and an honor on behalf of the team. Thank you, administration, Tiffin City Council, for letting us do it.
Thank you. All right. Well, Mr. President, that does complete the mayor's report this evening. So turn it over back to you.
Thank you. Good job, all of you. And we'll move on with our reports from the officers. Next up is Clerk of Council Ann Forrest.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do want to report that on February 11th, last week, my office received the petition of the Sisters of St. Francis for the annexation of 204.031 acres to the city, as well as the Seneca County Commissioner's resolution dated February 11th, 2021, approving this petition. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Law Director, do we need to do anything with that?
Yeah, Mr. President, by statute, that has to wait 60 days, and then you will consider that matter by ordinance of accepting the annexation. So that takes you to April 19th meeting, I believe it is. So I will prepare an ordinance accepting the annexation upon the direction of council. Is that council's will that I prepare that legislation for that meeting?
I see all the heads are nodding yes.
Okay, that's direction to me. I'll prepare the ordinance to accept the annexation at the statutory time.
Thank you. Anything else, Ian? Okay, thank you. Director of Finance, Kathy Kaufman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the financial report for January. Total receipts for the month were $3,850,187.55. Total expenses for the month were $3,567,990.29. The general fund's unencumbered balance was $2,618,148. Income tax receipts for January 2021 were $1,042,485.74. When comparing that January 2021 to January 2020, the increase was $185,557.07, which is a 21.65% increase. Looking at that increase, we could attribute that to, we collected some extra tax from the net profits or businesses. And also we need to keep in mind that sometimes it's just a timing of when the payments come in. We probably collected more December or fourth quarter payments for withholding, but we'll keep looking at February and see where we end up. But just keep in mind, if we collected more now, then there may be a little bit of a reduction later. A lot of it is also depending on when the weekends hit, comparing one year to another. So just keep that in mind. The 0.25% portion of income tax receipts that was transferred into Fund 215 for January was $125,013.85. The unexpended balance for all funds is $27,661,824.78, which is the same as the bank balances for the same time period. And I would like to let you know I will have a financial update for the mayor tomorrow, which will take us through February 12th. So you'll be seeing a new financial report as of the 12th by tomorrow. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the finance director? Councilman Gillig.
Thank you, Mr. President. Based on our finance director's oral report and the email we received with the report and the bank reconciliation on February 2nd, I would like to ask for council's approval of the finance director's report and bank reconciliation.
Is there a second? Councilwoman Boyle.
I'll second, Mr. President.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to accept the reconciliation and the finance director's report. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Director of Law, Brent T. Howard.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just very quickly, and I apologize if you mentioned this during the committee of the whole, but a couple procedural things. Or, of course, resolutions 21-4 and 21-5 are one reading resolutions, so you should pass or vote on those this evening. And then ordinances 21-15, 21-16, and 21-17 all involve a zoning matter. And so to follow the charter procedure for a zoning matter, council will need to, after they are introduced, for each one of them, to place them on the table by motion and then schedule a joint public hearing with the Planning Commission at least 15 days in the future, which means that that would be at the next regular meeting after 15 days would be the 15th of March. So you need to schedule that joint Planning Commission meeting for March 15th for all three ordinances. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for the law director? We'll now move on to written communications.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have mayor's request for legislation. Number 21-4 for 2022 road salt acquisition in the amount of an estimated total cost of $66,600.
Mayor's request for legislation 21-4 will be turned over to the Materials and Equipment Committee.
And then we have mayor's request for legislation number 21-3 for an appointment to the Julia M. Weller Memorial Commission of Deborah Baker.
Mayor's request for legislation 21-3 will be turned over to the Personnel and Labor Relations Committee.
And finance director's request for legislation number F 21-6 to amend the 2021 budget ordinance 21-11 to appropriate funds into the police department budget.
Finance director's request for legislation F 21-6 will be held on file in the clerk's office. Ordinance 21-13 has been prepared for tonight's meeting.
Finance director's request for legislation number 21-5 to amend the 2021 budget ordinance 21-11 in order to increase expenses in the telephone communications lines for council, court, and WPCC.
Finance director's request for legislation F 21-5 will be held on file in the clerk's office. Ordinance 21-12 has been prepared for tonight's meeting.
Finance director's request for legislation number 21-7 to amend the 2021 budget ordinance 21-11 to appropriate additional funds into the TIF program, fair lane and market budgets.
Finance director's request for legislation F 21-7 will be held on file in the clerk's office. Ordinance 21-14 has been prepared for tonight's meeting.
That concludes the written communications, Mr. President.
Thank you. We're now under oral communications. Anyone from the attending public who may wish to address council, please, I'll let the mayor explain how you do that, but direct your comments to the president of the city council, please.
Thanks, Mr. President. Anyone who is here in our Zoom room as an attendee, if you wish to speak or ask a question to City Council, there's a button. It most likely is located towards the bottom of your screen that says raise hand. You just click that and we can
Hey,
allow.
Marsh. Marcia.
Anyone wishing to speak? All right. Well, I guess we'll wait for Rich to get back, or Ben, you can take over. There he is.
I just lost my picture.
Oh, well, we see you.
Okay, I can't see anybody else.
We heard you saying Marcia, Marcia, Marcia.
She's my, I'm sorry. She's
Oh,
my
it's
tech
okay.
guru.
Mr. President, there are no hands raised wishing to address council.
Okay,
Back to you.
all right. I don't know what happened. I have no picture, so.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to motions. Are there any motions? We're now under resolutions.
We have resolution number 21-4, introduced by Daniel Perry. Resolution approving the appointment of Jeff Rowe, the Civil Service Commission, from the passage of this resolution until December 31st, 2026.
Okay, we're back. This is the first reading of resolution 21-4. This is a one reading. Who's on the? We need someone to make a motion.
Oh, yes.
Ben or
Councilwoman
Dawn.
Boyle, pardon me?
I should say Ben or Dawn are on the Personnel and Labor Relations Committee, but anyone, any council member may make a motion.
All right. Councilwoman Boyle.
Sure, yeah, I will make a motion to pass ordinance 21 excuse me, resolution 21-4.
Okay, is there a second? Councilwoman Yantuno.
I'll second, Mr. President.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to pass resolution 21-4. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the vote, please, on the passage of resolution 21-4.
Councilwoman Boyle,
Yes.
Gillig,
Yes.
Yanatuno,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Leopard,
Yes.
and Perkins.
Yes.
Resolution 21-4 passes with a vote of 6-0.
Resolution number 21-5, introduced by Daniel Perry, resolution approving the reappointment by the mayor of Robert Sigler to serve a term on the Tree Commission from the passage of this resolution until December 31st, 2025.
Councilwoman Yantuno.
I will motion to accept resolution 21.5.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilman Gillig.
I'll second the motion, Mr. President.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to pass ordinance resolution 21-5. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the vote, please.
Councilwoman Boyle,
Yes.
Gillig,
Yes.
Yanatuno,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Leopard,
Yes.
and Perkins.
Yes.
Resolution 21-5 passes with a vote of 6-0. We're now under ordinances.
Ordinance number 20-137, ordinance amending Part 11 Planning and Zoning Code of Tiffin Codified Ordinances to provide clarity and remove inconsistencies in the zoning code.
This is the third reading of ordinance 20-137. Councilwoman Yantuno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask for immediate passage of ordinance 20-137.
Thank you. We have a motion for the immediate passage of ordinance 20-137. Is there a second, please? Councilman Perkins.
I second the motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Councilman Leopard.
No. I'm on a delay.
Oh,
That was
okay,
the
I'm sorry.
second motion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the vote on the passage, please.
Councilwoman Boyle,
Yes.
Gillig,
Yes.
Yanatuno,
Yes.
Jones, Leopard,
Yes.
and Perkins.
Yes.
Ordinance 20-137 passes with a vote of 6-0.
Ordinance number 21-12. Introduced by Ben Gillig, ordinance amending the 2021 budget ordinance number 21-11 to increase the telephone communication lines for council, court, and WPCC in the total amount of $1,900.
This is the first reading of ordinance 21-12. Councilman Gillig.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to ask for suspension of council's three reading rule and immediate passage of ordinance 21-12.
Thank you. We have a motion to suspend council's three reading rules and the immediate passage of ordinance 21-12. Is there a second? Councilman Perkins.
I second the motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Councilman Gillig.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is an increase of $1,900, and it is increases in fees for Google. And obviously Google runs our city communication and the drive feature and everything else. This just provides the funds needed to cover that increase.
Thank you. Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're only 6 weeks into this new budget for 2021. How did this get missed 6 weeks ago or is this something new, or I guess I just don't understand why all of a sudden 1,900 more needs to be moved from one place to another. I would think it would have been in the original budget, but.
City Administrator Thornton.
Yes, I'll respond to Councilman Jones's request. At the time we put the budget together, that was the amount that Google was charging us for our account. In February last week, we were notified by them that there had been a change in their levels of participation, and for us to retain our vault, our storage vault, and to keep all of our employees on the system, there had been an increase in their fees.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the vote on the suspension, please. Ian, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Councilwoman Boyle.
Yes.
Thank you. Gillig,
Yes.
Yanatuno,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Leopard,
Yes.
and Perkins.
Yes.
The suspension passes with a vote of 6-0. We'll now call the vote on the passage.
Councilwoman Boyle,
Yes.
Gillig,
Yes.
Yanatuno,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Leopard,
Yes.
and Perkins.
Yes.
Ordinance 21-12 passes with a vote of 6-0.
Ordinance 21-13, introduced by Ben Gillig. Ordinance amending the 2021 budget ordinance number 21-11 to appropriate $682.22 into the police department budget related to the Ohio Recovery Grant.
This is the first reading of ordinance 21-13. Councilman Gillig.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to ask for suspension of our three reading rule and immediate passage of ordinance 21-13.
Thank you. We have a motion to suspend council's three reading rule and the immediate passage of ordinance 21-13. Is there a second? Councilman Yanatuno.
I'll second, Mr. President.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Councilman Gillig.
Just call me Councilman Gillum.
No, I said Gillig, didn't I?
Oh,
Gillum.
It's like,
I knew a Jeff Gillum. He was a good
Okay, so-
basketball player.
Yeah. So this is a grant that we have received. So we would just like to get this suspended and put into the budget and put to work as soon as possible.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gillum. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the vote on the suspension, please.
Councilwoman Boyle,
Yes.
Gillig,
Yes.
or Gillum? Yanatuno,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Leopard,
Yes.
and Perkins.
Yes.
The suspension passes with a vote of 6-0. We'll now call the vote on the passage. And
Councilwoman Boyle?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you. I might be frozen up.
Mhm.
Councilman Gillig,
Yes.
Yanatuno,
Yes.
Jones,
You're muted, Ken.
you're still muted. Nod your head, yes.
Councilman Leopard,
Yes.
good. Councilman Perkins,
Yes.
thank you.
Ordinance 21-13 passes with a vote of 6-0.
Ordinance 21-14, introduced by Ben Gillig. Ordinance amending the 2021 budget ordinance number 21-11 to appropriate $3,600 into the TIF program fair and market budget.
This is the first reading of ordinance 21-14. Councilman Gillig.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to ask for suspension of council's three reading rule and immediate passage of ordinance 21-14. And Kathy, if I may, you gave a great explanation during committee of the whole. Would you mind giving that again during discussion?
We have a motion for the suspension of council's three reading rule and immediate passage of ordinance 21-14. Is there a second? Councilman Perkins.
I second it.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Finance Director.
Yeah, so the reason that we're doing this is because in the TIF for the Progress Parkway area, we have several properties that are in there. And when we put the budget together, we kind of just put in a figure. We're not really sure how much money those parcels are going to have. And so when I got the information from Julie Atkins last week, I saw that one of the parcels did generate quite a bit more income, which is a good thing. But also we have an agreement to share part of this income with the school districts. And I only have, according to the agreement, I believe it's 10 days after we receive our portion for me to get the 10% portion out to the school districts. So the suspension would be definitely the way to go.
Good.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the vote on the suspension, please.
Councilwoman Boyle,
Yes.
Gillig,
Yes.
Yanatuno,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Yes.
Leopard,
Yes.
and Perkins.
Yes.
And Perkins,
Yes.
The suspension passes with a vote of 6-0. We'll now vote on the passage, please.
Councilwoman Boyle,
Yes.
Gillig,
Yes.
Yanatuno,
yes,
Jones,
Yes.
Leopard,
Yes.
and Perkins.
Yes.
Ordinance 21-14 passes with a vote of 6-0.
Ordinance number 21-15, introduced by Dawn Yanatuno. Ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Tiffin to change the zoning classification of 5 parcels of land on South Sandusky Street owned by Our Investments LLC in the 3rd Ward of the city of Tiffin, Ohio.
This is the first reading of ordinance 21-15. Councilwoman Yanatuno.
thank you, Mr. President. I would ask that we table ordinance 21-15.
We have a motion to table ordinance 21-15. Is there a second? Councilman Perkins.
I second the motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to table ordinance 21-15. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will call the vote on the motion to table, please.
Councilwoman Boyle,
Yes.
Gillig,
Yes.
Yanatuno,
Yes,
Jones,
Yes.
Leopard,
Yes.
and Perkins.
Yes.
Ordinance 21-15 is tabled with a vote of 6-0. Law Director, can we wait till the end to call the meeting? Or do I need
Yes.
to do that for each one of these?
No, you can do that at the end. Just make sure that you refer to each particular matter.
Okay, thank you.
Ordinance number 21-16, introduced by Daniel Perry. Ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Tiffin to change the zoning classification of 2 tax parcels of land on St. Francis Avenue owned by Sisters of St. Francis of Tiffin, Ohio, in the 4th Ward of the city of Tiffin, Ohio.
This is the first reading of ordinance 21-16. Councilwoman Yanatuno.
I'm not sure if I'm the one that's supposed to do this, but I will ask that we table ordinance 21-16.
Thank you. We have a motion to table ordinance 21-16. Is there a second? Councilman Gillig.
I'd like to second the motion, Mr. President.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to table ordinance 21-16. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the vote on the table, on the motion to table, please.
Councilwoman Boyle,
Yes.
Gillig,
Yes.
Yanatuno,
Yes,
Jones,
Yes.
Leopard,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ordinance 21-16 is tabled with a vote of 6-0.
Ordinance 21-17, introduced by Daniel Perry. Ordinance zoning approximately 214.031 acres of the land owned by Sisters of St. Francis of Tiffin, Ohio, in the 4th Ward of the city as Zone R4A Multiple Family Residential Agricultural District, compatible with adjacent land use and meeting requirements of Tiffin City Charter and the codified ordinances.
This is the first reading of ordinance 21-17. Councilwoman Yanatuno.
thank you, Mr. President. I would ask that we table ordinance 21-17.
Thank you. We have a motion to table ordinance 21-17. Is there a second? Councilwoman Boyle.
Yes, I'll second, Mr. President.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to table ordinance 21-17. Is there any discussion? I'll ask the clerk to call, seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the vote on the motion to table, please.
Councilwoman Boyle,
Yes.
Gillig,
Yes.
Yanatuno,
Yes,
Jones,
Yes.
Leopard,
Yes.
and Perkins.
Yes.
Ordinance 21-17 is tabled with a vote of 6-0. Is that all the ordinances?
That concludes the ordinances.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
At this time, I would like to announce a public hearing to discuss ordinance 21-15, ordinance 21-16, and ordinance 21-17 to be held at our next at our council meeting on March 15th at 7:05. to discuss these issues? All right. Is there anything for the good of the order? Law Director.
Yeah, I want to make sure that Zach doesn't think he was removed from the Personnel and Labor Relations Committee. When I mentioned that earlier, the committee members, I had last year's list. So this year it's Dan Perry, the chair, Ben Gillig as a member, and also Zach Perkins. Dawn is not on that committee. Just wanted to clarify that again, to make sure that Zach didn't feel like he was unilaterally removed by me or anyone else.
Well, you don't have
No,
to take
no
the blame.
worries.
You don't have to take the blame. I didn't have a list in front of me and I don't have it memorized yet. So I should have known that. So,
I knew I was, and I knew I wasn't now, but I'm like, oh, well.
is there anything else? Councilman Jones, quickly.
Yes, I just wanted to comment. We passed ordinance 2113 on that $682 going into the police department for overtime, et cetera, et cetera. Someone went out and got a grant for $682. That sounds like a lot of work and paperwork, but I appreciate someone going through the efforts to get it even in small amounts. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Well, Kylie, thanks for being with us tonight. Good luck in your endeavors in school.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing else, then we stand adjourned. God bless all of you. Be safe. Good night.
All right.